So today I'll be presenting about Hume's empiricism and how it reflects in today's world. I'm Leo, and I'm a researcher in the intersection between neuroscience, music therapy, and sleep. And I have a YouTube channel where I explore that in video format. So for Hume, he published the Treatise of Human Nature in 1739-40 when he was 28 years old. And it was an inspired reaction to the methodological limitations of Isaac Newton's physics. So he was trying to address the same problem as Kant, possibly, the problem of understanding, specifically cause and effect, and how can we reason about the world. And this is exemplified by this quote at the beginning of his treatise, which is, even mathematics, natural philosophy, and natural religion are in some measure dependent on the science of man, since they lie under humans' cognition and the ability for humans to judge based on cognition. So, what does it mean to understand the world? Well, for Hume, he mentions that there's a sensory boundary. Please note that I'll be doing some equivalencing with modern neuroscience and scientific terms. So he doesn't necessarily use sensory boundary, but there is a boundary. And there is, as Kant has mentioned in the previous presentation by Luigi, there's a noumena, or we can call it the natural world. And through our senses, we actually get impressions. So for instance, from the speakers, we can imagine there's a piano playing, if it's a piano recording. Or we actually just focusing on leaves, whereas this is part of a tree ecology. And it's very important to notice that our understanding of the world is completely dependent on our experience. That's what Hume proposes. Our impressions are not direct perceptions of reality. They are completely dependent on our experience. And today there's a concept called the 4E cognition, which is these 4 E's, which is enacted. We are acting in a certain way, maybe even in a social context, such as dancing. We're extended, we use tools to perceive, and science is very important. We're embedded in a certain physical environment, somewhere around the globe, for instance, and we are embodied, we have a body. And then Hume mentions that our impressions are the source of all ideas and abstractions. And this is the only way we can have knowledge. He says that we can actually form beliefs beyond any possible experience through either habitual thought patterns, customs, and through our capacity to imagine, but he remains skeptical of whether those beliefs actually can lead to actual knowledge without any evidence. This is in stark contrast to the Platonic reality, and it's in line with the positivists' verification principle, which was much later, I think Wittgenstein is among those philosophers. This verification principle says that a truth can only be grounded on observation, some impressions, for instance, or through logical, truth or falsity. Otherwise, a statement will be meaningless. So, how can we fit in Hume's concepts with today's science? So I've put together a few tables of his concepts. I think I'll go through it quickly, just because of time. But here are very important steps. Impressions is our foundation of understanding. Ideas are abstractions from impressions and can only be based upon impressions. And there are ways to associate ideas through a set of, similarities. These are based on custom, habits, and therefore causation of events is a mental construct. Because, there's a difference between impressions, which are more matter of fact, and ideas. And we can have beliefs beyond experience, and causal propositions are experience-based. Any statement about the world is necessarily about our experience, dependent on our experience. Here are some neuroscience equivalences to those concepts, which I'll go quite quickly. But for instance, ideas like this one. There's evidence showing that our neural perception and our imagination of the same object has strong similar neural patterns. And this depends on our capacity to vividly imagine or perceive. Okay. Keep in mind, there's a lot of things. I'll just go quickly through them. I'll be happy to discuss about them. I've been really listening a lot to Wolfram. You might be familiar, and his observer theory. And here are some ways that these are equivalent concepts. So, for instance, in our impressions of the world, he says that we perceive something by having a computational equivalent. So there's a phenomenon outside. We perceive what we're capable of perceiving within our senses capacity. So, for instance, vision is only a certain amount of light waves that we can see. So depending on the phenomenon's computational rules, we actually perceive it through a equivalent set of computational rules in our brain. So it's a that's that, and yeah, coarse graining. That's important. That our ideas are just not the full truth. Okay. Then I've put some links to mathematical philosophy. Aristotle was actually in line with Hume. He just said impressions, but he's specifically speaking about maths, are the source of geometrical knowledge. So we actually see a triangle and then we abstract it to have a more perfect version. There's some concepts of fictionalism, which says that actually the abstractions are not necessarily a good representation of reality. Infinity is just a useful concept that does not exist. But the other side would be that is the same idea for Aristotle. The perfect representation of our impressions are still an abstraction from impressions. Intuitionism says that we progressively develop mathematical knowledge, and it's not something discovered, unlike a Platonic perspective. And there's this Quine-Putnam indispensability idea, which says that any beliefs or theories about nature or nomena that are true, so a scientific theory that has been validated several times, necessarily means that the maths that are used in that scientific theory is true as well, or is in reality, because of that naturalistic perspective, meaning that it comes, it's in line with impressions. And so, yeah, I think these are the other mentions. I won't go through them because of time. But yeah, there's meaninglessness, verification principle I mentioned. Our understanding is dependent on our experience. Scientific tools are used as extensions, and this is the difference between removing certain non-important features to understand something, lossy compression. So that's the analogy by Wolfram for our perceptions and capturing data. Whereas lossless compression is a way of doing analysis, which means that we try to find the rules that allow us to generate the impressions of reality. I'll just go through that here, but I don't want to take too much time here. There's some references of what I've just talked about, where I've learned all of this. And thank you very much.
Yeah, man. Excellent. I mean, so detailed, so good. I mean, thanks for trying to compare it, across kind of different schemas, across mathematics, across modern neuroscience, hundreds and hundreds of years. I mean, I think that kind of grounds him as a, pretty revolutionary, insightful thinker. So yeah, thank you for that. That was great. And I'll definitely be going back to that chart because I mean, there's a lot in there, and I know you didn't get to cover it all, but thanks for kind of touching on a lot of it. It was
Listen,
great to
I'd
see.
love to go through it again at some other time if you'd like, but thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks for doing it. Much appreciated.